You're working hard to build your wealth, but if you don't have this, all your labor could be in vain. Today, we're going to talk about a trust. And many of us are building wealth on this channel. Our aim is to bridge the wealth gap. And so I share videos on how to really build a wealth using the stock market, real estate, and other avenues, bonds, and those type of things. But I want to pause to kind of talk about the importance of protecting your wealth. So, in the last video, I talked about the will, right? And why we need to have a will. But there were some objections in the will or some things that you might want to say, hey, I don't want to deal with that. And so the next thing that you might want to consider is having a trust. So in this video, I'm going to break down why anybody wants to consider or should consider getting a trust. So let me share my screen so we can go through this together. Now, when it comes to a trust, right? And so previously we talked about the will, but when it comes to a trust, there are some things that a lot of people, wealthy people, in fact, appreciates. Okay. Now, when you die, we will die one day. It sounds so crazy, right? But your trust will allow you to have no frozen assets, right? And what is this? What am I talking about? Well, when we have a will, right? When you have a will, once you pass on, what happens is your assets are frozen. But if you have a trust, then you won't have any frozen assets because what's going to happen is the trust is going to execute whatever you have in it. And so there is no need for your assets to be frozen. Now, what's next? You don't have a legal process, right? No legal process. If you recall in the last video, we talked about when you have a trust or a will, rather, if you have a will, what's going to happen is your will is going to go through probate court. That is the legal process. But here, if we have a trust, we don't have to worry about that idea or that notion of a legal process. Now, one thing that a lot of people love is that it doesn't come with any legal fees. No legal fees. When you think about this, why is this important? Well, when you have a will, okay, when you have a will, what's going to happen is you're going to have to pay fees. Well, not you, but out of whatever assets or whatever funds you have left to your loved ones, that money is going to have to pay lawyer fees and whatever else type of fees that comes with, probate court and stuff like that. And so if you have a trust, you don't have to worry about legal fees. So that's going to be a very good thing, right? And this too, many wealthy people love this, and I think everyone should, but every single thing is private with your, privacy is so underrated these days. I mean, come on. Who wants people in your business? Right? I know not me, but a lot of people who don't have a trust, um, and even if you don't have a will, a lot of your stuff is private, is public rather. And so anybody can go look up the divorce proceedings of or the estate planning of such and such if you don't have a trust because everything is private, especially if it's in probate court. It's all public rather. Everything is public, especially if it's in probate court. All right. And so another thing is your beneficiaries get 100% control over your funds or the money. 100% control goes to the beneficiaries, and that's good. You know, that's what we want, right? That's what we essentially want to your beneficiaries, right? No one can object to whatever is in the trust because it's legal. It's a legal bounded document. And so no one can raise their hand to say, hey, I'm supposed to get, I don't know, some money. Because you can see, we saw in the previous video where that can be done, right? And one of the other great things here is that your trust includes a power of attorney. This is important, right? Because we don't know the future. We don't know the future. And so you don't know if you might need this. And then who is going to decide what happens to you? God forbid you end up in, I don't know, hospice or something like that. What's going to happen? And these things, and this is why when we were doing our the process isn't easy, because you have to think about the inevitable. What if, how, stuff might happen. But you want to think about this when you're in your right mind, when you're sane. And so you have the thought to think about, well, what do you want to happen when you pass on, and how you want your estate to like divide, and whatever the case may be. It's good to really do that when you're capable. And it's good to have. So yeah, so that's to kind of go over a quick refresh of all the things that are really beneficial if you have a trust. Okay. So first of all, right, your assets will not be frozen. That's really good. You will not go through a legal process, because the trust will just automatically start being executed. You don't have to worry about legal fees and lawyers and stuff like that, because you already paid the lawyers, right, for the trust. Everything is private. Love of the privacy. I'm gonna put 2-star there. Your beneficiaries will have 100% control, because of course you've given it to them, whatever it is. No one can object and say, oh, you owed me some money and I need it now. Well, too bad. um and then you have a power of attorney, but even with that, you also have a financial power of attorney as well, because your trust is going to be doing that. So definitely, as you're building your wealth, because of course that's the aim, right? Make money in your sleep. As you're building your wealth, you want to definitely consider, a lot of people forget this part. I've talked to so many people in terms of building wealth, and they're like, yeah, I got stocks. Yeah, I have bonds. Yeah, I have this 401k, that. And so I go, and what happens if you pass tomorrow? And the conversation is silent, because people don't think about that. But we all have to go one day. We don't know the time, we don't know the hour, only God knows that. And so it is a good idea to start making those preparational steps in the event that something happens, right? So yeah, I hope that you found this video helpful. And if you did, please like, share, subscribe, and subscribe to our newsletter. Every week, I send out some tips on how to build your wealth, how to manage your money, and it's very informative. And so, yeah, until next time, see you.